In this video, I'm going to kind of cover the basics of how we control the EQ and the effects for the different channels and the different mixes. And so the way that we do that, we hit the select button for the channel we want to. So I'll do channel 1, that's my vocal. And so now all of the effects and the EQ are up here. I shouldn't say all the effects. There are a lot of built-in effects, reverbs and delays and other things like that, which we are really not going to use, at least not at first. Maybe down the road we will. But for now, we're going to mostly use things like gates and compression and EQ. That lives here. One thing that I hadn't covered yet is the gains. I said in the first video that this board has digital gains, not analog gains. So the gain is this knob right here. But again, once we get it dialed in and get the mix dialed in, we shouldn't have to mess with the gains because we'll save the scene, and then if we recall the scene, all the gain settings come back. It's got a built-in low cut here, and this controls the frequency for the low cut. This is the noise gate here, so you turn the effect on and off with this button here. This controls the threshold, the noise threshold for the gate. Dynamics is really compression or limiting. So that's here. EQ is here. It looks like high. Okay, I see. So each of these knobs controls the Q and the frequency and the gain for the selected frequency. You'll see that these are changing as I select that. And so that's really the dynamics and the EQ. Now all of this stuff is represented over here, and you can get really in depth on all of these things. So you'll notice each of these little boxes here has a view button. There's a button that says view. There's one down here that says view for the dynamics, one that says view for the EQ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the one that says view on the EQ, and then if we look over here, now we're getting a much more detailed picture of the EQ. And in fact, if there was sound coming into the board, you would see a real-time spectrum of that sound, which is going to be really useful for if we happen to get feedback, for instance. We can see exactly, we can look for a spike at a particular frequency and then turn down that frequency. So if you know about effects and you want to get more into the effects, let's say you want to do more with the compression, so I'm going to hit the view button for the compressor. You can get in here and get into the attack and the hold and the release, the gain and the mix and all of that for the compressor. You can see on the meter exactly what's happening with compression. Again, we don't have any sound coming in. But that is how to control the EQ and the compression, the noise gate, and of course I also covered the gain. One last thing, which actually has nothing to do with effects, but it has to do with this section up here. You'll see that it says monitor up here. This doesn't have anything to do with our stage monitors. This is, sometimes when you watch people mixing in large situations, you'll see that over at the sound booth, they've got 2 speakers. Those are the monitors that it's talking about here. So we're not going to be using that, and that doesn't have anything to do with the monitors that we will be using on stage. One other thing that I should cover here is scenes. So we hit the view button, and then this screen changes. Now right now it defaults to the home page, which is blank, and I probably, those are cues for a show. But we want to look at scenes. You'll see the second tab there says scenes. Over here to the right, you've got layers and you've got page select. So I want to go to the second page. So I'm going to hit the page select to the right and we get scenes. And I've got initial setup on 1. So what we'll do, this one over here says load. There are knobs below all these. I'm going to turn the load knob to select that one. And then I'll push over here where it says load settings. You push load. Oops, I pushed the wrong button. Cancel. That's from the USB drive. We want to load from the scene, which is over here on the left. So I'll push load, and it'll say, are you sure? and then you say yes over here, and then it loads that scene. All the faders over here just went down to 0 because right now that's how it's set because we haven't mixed it in yet. But eventually we'll get that dialed in, and all these faders will go to where they need to be. All the gain settings will go to where they need to be, all the EQ. So that's how we load and save scenes as well.